Hi, welcome to the channel. This is Beyond Authentic, where we go beyond the mundane to give you the facts about authentic witchcraft. My name is Lisa, and in today's Witchy Wednesday, I'm going to tell you all about Beltane. The first question obviously is, what is Beltane? What do I even mean? What is that word? Well, Beltane is one of the 8 sabbats in Wicca. If you don't know the difference between Wicca, witchcraft and paganism, I will link a video just up here in the corner. I have gone through the basics of that in a video last week. But Beltane comes from the Wiccan tradition, and it is one of the 8 holy days, the 8 sabbats. Now, for a lot of people, Beltane is considered a new festival, a new tradition, but its roots actually go back to Ireland and Scotland from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Now, the tradition used to be that you would light bonfires at Beltane, and Beltane would mark the beginning of summer. It would be the first day of summer. Now, at this time, what you would do is you would take your cattle out to pasture, out to the summer pastures where the grass was greener and the animals would grow fatter faster. So you would drive your animals through. Now, because back in the day there was a lot of superstition and a lot of myths and legends, and they didn't understand necessarily about sort of pest control and disease control, they believed that if you drove your cattle, in other words, if you took your cattle between 2 large bonfires, it would protect them, and that the bonfires themselves had protective and purifying energies. And that's where today you will still see a bonfire festival held in Edinburgh every single Beltane. It's a massive festival. The last 2 years it's been a lot more subdued, obviously because of everything that's happening in the world, but it is still happening, and it is still an active and thriving tradition in parts of Ireland and in parts of Scotland. Traditionally at Beltane, you would extinguish the fire in your house. So the fire that you're cooking on, you would actually put that out, and you would clean the stove, clean the hearth, make everything kind of new again. And then you would go along to the communal bonfire with your torch, so with your stick with rags and paraffin or whatever oil you've got, whatever fat you've got, and you would light that from the communal bonfire and take that fire back to your house, and it marked basically a new beginning. This was part of a sacred fire that was used, and so you would take that sacred fire back to your home and you would use that for cooking in. At Beltane, people also jumped the fire. It was seen as a rite of fertility. It was seen as a rite for couples sometimes. Sometimes you could jump the fire as a couple, which basically meant that you were kind of betrothed. So that was another part of the ritual, again, linking back to fire. And in fact, Beltane actually gets its name, allegedly, from the word that was used for the god Bel and the Gaelic word Teine, Teine, which meant fire. So it was a god fire. It was the fire of the gods. Before I go on any further, if you are enjoying this series of the Witchy Wednesdays, do please leave me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, why not consider hitting that subscribe button? I would also love it if you would leave a comment down in the comment section with anything you want to know on this massively wide open subject. If you've got a burning question about witchcraft or Wicca or paganism in general, do please put it down in the comment box and I will try and get to it in a future video. So in the Wiccan tradition, Beltane actually marks the point of the year where the god and goddess actually marry. And that marks the time where she then becomes pregnant, is pregnant through the summer, and gives birth to the god. It's complicated, at Lammas back at the beginning of August. So there's a whole kind of story that goes along with this. But basically, Wiccans believe that Beltane is a time of fertility. It's a time of sex magic. It's a time of a celebration of sexuality and all of those things. If you look out into the farmlands, you'll see that it's the time where it's lambing season, where birds are making their nests, where basically everybody is getting it on. And so for a lot of people within the Wiccan tradition, this is the time that's also one of the ways that they celebrate. Because Beltane is so strongly linked with fertility and that celebration of sexuality, it was very common 9 months later in late November, early December to have a whole clutch of Beltane babies. And that was something that was quite common back in the day. And so even these days, Beltane is still a time where a lot of Wiccans and pagans will decide to try for children to have Beltane babies. So it is still part of that tradition today. And in fact, in a lot of the non-pagan traditions, the idea of a maypole where you're literally dancing around a very phallic symbol, and the maidens, the young girls that are dancing around the phallic image of the maypole with the string intertwining. There's all sorts of connotations in that that also link in traditionally back to fertility rites. Often these days, dancing around the maypole is very desexualized, and in fact the people that are doing the dancing tend to be younger children, so quite rightly so. But even now today, the term going a maying basically means that you are going off to celebrate May, to reenact the marriage night of the god and the goddess, without going into too many details and getting myself struck off from the YouTubes. Now, a lot of couples in the pagan and Wiccan traditions will actually use Beltane as a time to actually get hand fasted, to have a hand fasting. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's basically a pagan wedding, but it only lasts for a year and a day the first time, if that makes sense. So basically, you get married on Beltane, it lasts for a year and a day. And at that point, if you decide that you are not compatible, you can go your separate ways, no ill will, no problem. But if you decide that you are compatible, you then repeat the hand fasting, and that's where it kind of locks you in together in the way of any other traditional wedding does. Now, at this time, a lot of couples will jump the broom. So literally the broomstick is laid out on the ground, and you kind of hold hands with some rope or some string or some ribbon that is wrapped around your hands in a particular way, and you jump the broom together. And the idea of that is that that is the signifier that you are now going to be spending that year and a day as if you are a married couple, as if you are wed, but you do have that get out clause at the end of that period if both of you so wish. So that is something that, again, is still done to this day in a lot of pagan traditions and in a lot of circles. So what if you want to celebrate Beltane and you don't fancy getting married, you don't fancy going out and doing, naughty things out in the fields? How do you celebrate Beltane at home? Well, what you can do is you can decorate your altar or your home with flowers. So traditionally, daffodils, because they're blooming at this time. Yellow flowers were always a popular thing for Beltane because yellow marks the colour of the sun. So wearing yellow, I've got it on my eyes, I've got it on my shirt, bringing in sort of daffodils and tulips and things into the house, or any kind of spring flower. That was one way of doing it. But also wearing a sort of a headband, or wearing kind of some sort of daisy chain. Daisy chains are actually part of something which, again, comes from this tradition. It was something that the young girls, the maidens, would do, is they would decorate themselves with garlands of daisies. And so these days people still do that. My headpiece I'm wearing today is in recognition of a daisy chain. But you would decorate yourself with the spring flowers, you would have all of that lovely fresh energy in your home. And so that's something that people still do. Also, if there aren't maypole celebrations near you, you can actually still make a maypole in your house. Maybe you have a candle, you can wrap the candle with ribbons in a particular way. Obviously you're not going to light it, or you can wrap the broom. I've seen some really fabulous broom and besom displays which have the sort of ribbons attached at the top, and then they're interwoven all the way around as if it was a maypole. And some of them are absolutely beautiful. But decorating things like that. Also, mead and cakes is a very popular one. So you would drink some mead and make and then eat and share cakes. Mead is a honey wine, and it is absolutely delicious. I love mead. It's very potent, although I would say it doesn't have to be, but every mead I've tried, all the good meads are very potent. But again, because it's made of honey, there's that connotation back to the birds and the bees, that fertility element. It's very sweet and very potent. And you know what happens when, couples have a few drinks where it's a bit sweet and a bit giggly. Exactly. So there's reasons why all of these traditions came about. The idea of the cakes as well is that you are baking something and you are sharing something. It's a very grounding thing, but it's also a celebration. And again, some of these traditions go back to times where you wouldn't have a cake every day, would you? It would be for celebrations only. Having a fire, lighting candles, setting your intent for the coming year is a very common thing that pagans and Wiccans do at this time of year. So you might have a fire ritual, and you can think of it as kind of, the idea where you have a fire pit, or you have a fire, and you burn all of the things that you don't want to take with you for the coming year. So it might be regrets, it might be bad habits, it might be, negativity. You write everything down on pieces of paper, and you ceremonially put those into the fire, watch them burn, and as the ash goes up and as the smoke goes up, that habit or that negative energy, that negative form that you're taking with you, is cast out into the universe and is no longer part of you. So that's something that's very common as well. So there's lots of different ways that you can actually celebrate. What I will be doing, I still haven't quite decided. I think I might go up and feed the ponies up near us. One of them is pregnant, so again, that pregnancy, that sort of fertility element. I'm not going to go into anything relating to the fertility and sexuality side because YouTube isn't the place to discuss that. But I will be decorating my house with some lovely bouquets of flowers. We will be opening up all the doors and windows and getting new energy in. And we might even, depending on the weather, get the burner out in the garden and light the burner and just sit around and kind of have a bit of a barbecue or something like that to celebrate the turning of the year. I will also obviously be decorating my altar, and there's a couple of rituals that I'll be doing around sort of Beltane and around the idea that it's not just fertility in terms of sexuality, but also in terms of abundance. So there'll be some workings I'll be doing in terms of maybe gaining some financial gain, maybe gaining in other ways, that I will be starting at Beltane this year. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can actually do. So even if you can't decorate your altar and get married or any of those other big sort of ways of celebrating Beltane, you can still take a walk out and go somewhere that's green and just sit in nature and just be part of nature, be part of the changing of the seasons. You may be able to light a candle and just sit with that energy just for a few moments, just recognizing the changing of the year and that we are heading towards summer. It doesn't have to be a big celebration. A lot of pagans don't celebrate all the sabbats, all of the holy days, the Wiccan days, but increasingly they are seen as being part of the general pagan practice rather than just particularly Wiccan. So it is entirely up to you to celebrate or not to celebrate, but hopefully this video has given you a few ideas. You do still have plenty of time. It isn't until Saturday, so you do still have a few days to put some preparations in place, even if it is only just grabbing a tea light and a box of matches and just putting that to one side ready for Beltane. However you're choosing to celebrate, if you're choosing to celebrate at all, I do wish you a very, very fabulous Beltane. Do please leave me all your thoughts and comments down in the comment section. How are you going to be celebrating this year? Is this a new celebration for you? Have you got some ideas from this video? Do please let me know all your thoughts and feelings down in the comment box. But for now, that's it from me, and as I always say, stay you, stay safe, stay authentic, and I will definitely see you next time. Bye bye.